guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to go ahead and do my winter wrap up and my spring TBR. So if you've been watching my channel for a little while, you probably have noticed that I don't really do TBR videos, and that's because I never really know what I'm going to be picking up to read. But I decided that I'm going to at least try and do like seasonal TBRs this year, because I have a lot of like really old series that have just been sitting on my shelves that I haven't read yet that I want to read. And I thought the best way for me to kind of get through those series is if I kind of pick some out and break it up throughout the year and kind of get through those. In my goals video that I posted at the beginning of the year, I kind of picked out like 8 or 9 older series that I wanted to prioritize for this year. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and check out that video. I'll have that one linked down below. But I have picked out a couple of those series that I started with in the winter time that I'll talk about, that I completed a couple of those. And then I picked out a couple that I want to start in the springtime, and then that's just how it's going to go for the rest of this year. So we'll see like if I will actually complete all those series this year. So fingers crossed that I will. But we will go ahead and start with my winter wrap up and then go into my spring TBR. But I won't really go into too much detail about any of these books, because I think my plan is going to be, as soon as I complete one of these series, I'll do like a spoiler-free series review on my channel. I've already done that for one of these series, and I think that's kind of how I will continue to do that. But we'll go ahead and get started. So we will go ahead and get this started with the series that I actually already have a video up on my channel for, and that is going to be TJ Klune's Green Creek series. So the only 2 books that I had left to read in that series that I started in the winter time was going to be book 3 in that series. And so we have TJ Klune's Heart Song, and then we had Brother Song, so book 3 and 4. Overall, I really enjoyed this series. I think if you are a fan of TJ Klune already, you will really enjoy this series. If you are a fan of werewolves and witches, all those fantastical elements, I think you will really enjoy this series. If you already enjoy his other works, such as The House in the Cerulean Sea or Under the Whispering Door, you will enjoy that. You will enjoy this. Definitely like different type of vibes, but it still has like that fantasy kind of element to it. Like I said, I think you will enjoy it. I did not really care for this one. I think this was my lowest rated book out of the 4 main books. I gave this one a 3 stars. The other ones in the series, I ended up rating those between a 4 and a 5 stars. All of the novellas, I believe it was like 3 novellas, I ended up giving those like a 3 stars, just because they were only like 10 to 20 pages each, so it wasn't really much there to rate. But I highly recommend this series overall. So then the next 2 books that I read is part of like an 8-book series. I feel like, and I think I said this in my winter TBR, that I'm probably like one of the last people to read this series, but better late than never. And if I read it quicker, great. But if it takes me the whole year to read the series, that's fine too. I'm not in a rush. But that is going to be Sarah J. Maas's The Throne of Glass series. So I went ahead and picked up book 2, and that is going to be Crown of Midnight. And then I completed book 3, and that is going to be Heir of Fire. And just a quick synopsis of this series. It follows our main character by the name of Selena, who is 18 years old, and she is supposed to be this really good assassin, and she gets chosen to compete in this competition for her freedom, as well as the title of the King's Champion. And so in the first book, Throne of Glass, we are just following her as she is competing against these really tough men, and that is pretty much all that book is. It's just following Selena as she's in this competition, and we try to see whether or not she is going to win the title of King's Champion. I thought the first book was fine. I think a lot of people don't like that book or the series as a whole from what I see, but I thought it was fine. This book, Crown of Midnight, I think it was better than the first one. I still gave this one a 3 stars. We end up finding out a lot more about Selena's past. This is very Sarah J. Maas-y. So if you read any of Sarah J. Maas's other works, you know what I mean when I say it's very Sarah J. Maas-y. So, but I like Sarah J. Maas so far and what I've read of her so far. So I enjoyed this book. And then Heir of Fire, I feel like it's even better than Crown of Midnight. Still, I gave it a 3 stars. It hasn't like wowed me yet. But it has intrigued me enough to want to keep going with the series. So there's that. So then the next 2 books that I want to talk about that I read that I have completed the series for, but I don't have the series review because I just completed the last book in that series last night. And I have so many thoughts for, but I won't really talk about my thoughts too much here in this video, but that is going to be the last 2 books in the Greenbone saga. So the second book in that series we have is Jade War by Miss Fonda Lee, and then we have Jade Legacy, and then the first book in that series is actually Jade City, which is behind me. I know it's a different edition, but the editions that look like this are actually behind that one. But if you don't know anything about the Greenbone saga, this actually follows 2 clans that live in, well, they live on an island by the name of Kikon, and they have the ability to wear what we call Jade. And Jade gives people special abilities where they like have supernatural strength. They usually go to some sort of academy where people learn how to use Jade. And so basically the story is about these 2 clans, one by the name of No Peak, the other one by the name of the Mountain. And they are fighting for the control of Jade. Throughout the entire series, we are following both of these clans as they are literally competing against each other for the control of Jade. There's a lot of fighting, not just between the 2 clans, but within both of these clans and their family. The primary clan that we are following is No Peak. This series is freaking amazing. I can tell you that straight up. I loved everything about this series. I have so many things to say. Like I said, I'm not going to get into it right now. Just know that I love this series and I would highly, highly, highly recommend this series. But this is one of the series that I did complete during the winter time. Well, technically last night. And then the last book that I read as part of my winter wrap up, which is actually going to lead me into my spring TBR, that is going to be The Torch Against the Night, which is the second book in the Ember and the Ashes series. And I actually was trying to complete the rest of the book in this series, the rest of the books in this series, which should have been this one and 2 other books, but I did not make it. But this is, like I said, this is the second book in the series, and the first book in the series is An Ember in the Ashes. So An Ember in the Ashes actually follows our main character by the name of Laya, who lives in the Marshall Empire, but she is technically considered like a second-rate citizen. And one day her brother Darren is arrested for treason, and so she decides that she is going to go and break him out of prison, but she needs the help of the resistance. But she ends up becoming like a slave to this woman by the name of the commandant, and then she ends up getting help from the commandant's son by the name of Elias, who is this really skilled fighter who is a part of this group called the Mask. And he attends this really fine academy, and he's in the middle of his trials. And so Laya and Elias ends up teaming up to try and get her brother out of jail. They become fugitives of the Empire, and the story takes off from there. I really enjoyed the first book in the story. I really enjoyed this one, and this story ends up revealing a lot about the Empire, and there was a lot of reveals, especially towards the end of this one. So I'm really sad that I couldn't make it to the next book in the series. There's actually 2 more books in this series, which, like I said, brings me to my spring TBR. So the first 2 books that I want to try to get to this spring would be the next 2 books and the final 2 books in the Ember and the Ashes series, and that is going to be A Reaper at the Gates and A Sky Beyond the Storm. I swear I've been trying to finish the series since last year, but I am currently reading this one. I'm not that far in. I'm only 50 pages in, and I'm actually listening to this one on audiobook. I don't typically listen to fantasy books on audio, But since I read the first two physically and I'm already kind of familiar with the characters in the worlds, this one isn't so bad on audiobook. So I think that I will be able to knock these two out pretty quickly. And then the next two books that I'm going to be reading are two more Sarah J. Maas books. And I think I might have made a mistake because I might have read one of them out of order. So the first one that I wanted to pick up is her short story, the novella collection, The Assassin's Blade. I was told that you could probably read this one first before reading Throne of Glass, but I was trying to read them in publication order. So technically, I think that I should have read this one after Crown of Midnight, I think, but I read Air of Fire first, so oops. But it's fine. I think it's fine. But I plan on reading The Assassin's Blade, and then I'm going to read Queen of Shadows. So these will be the next two Sarah J. Maas books that I'm going to read. So the next series that I want to talk about is an older series, and I bought this like years ago, and I think I even bought it because I saw a video with someone talking about it, which prompted me to buy it, and they like really raved about it. And I just bought it and never looked at it again. But that is the Remnant Chronicles by Mary E. Pearson. And the first one is The Kiss of Deception, The Heart of Betrayal, and then The Beauty of Darkness. And I don't even really remember what this one is about, besides some girl is supposed to be getting married and then she runs away, and then like two guys are after her. I think it was like the prince and then an assassin or something, and like we don't know which guy is which or something like that. But I think it was like supposed to be really unique of how the first book was told, and then I think the rest of the series is pretty good, I hope. So we will see about that. But I really hope I enjoy this. I don't think I heard people say anything bad about this, but we'll see. Hopefully this stands a test of time, because like I said, this is a kind of an old series. And then the last books that I wanted to kind of prioritize and try to get through this springtime, I needed to throw some adult books in here, and I had to get back to my guys on this one, because I haven't read any books by this author and I really miss them. And that is going to be the Ryeria Chronicles by Michael J. Sullivan. So the first one that we have is The Crown Tower. Then we have The Rose and the Thorn. Then we have The Death of Dulgath. And then we have The Disappearance of Winter's Daughter. And so these are the books that come before Ryeria Revelations, which this series I have back right behind me, behind my little Black Panther. And I talked about these books briefly in my How to Get Out of a Reading Slump. But I really enjoyed the Ryeria Revelations, and I don't really know what these are supposed to be about. All I know is that these take place before that, and they still follow Royce and Hadrian. So I'm going to assume that this might be before they actually start working together. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited to see how they even started working together, and I'm excited to see them, those two characters, because I love me some Royce and Hadrian. I can't wait to get back to this world. So I'm really excited for this. Hopefully I can make it to all of these books, because this is a lot to get through, and I already have plans for some other books that I'm trying to get through here within the next couple of months. So we'll see what happens. But that is all that I have for you guys. Like I said, I will have my video for the Green Creek series down below in my description bar. I'll also have a link to my goals video down in my description bar if you are curious to know which of the series that I will be trying to read. It is mentioned in that video, so if you want to check that out, please do so. But I will see you guys next time. Bye!